The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Dave DeBear here. We're going to hang for another minute. And I don't know if I'm pretty sure you can see Dave Hanna, our Director of Marketing, on the other side. Hope everybody's doing well. The COVID has stayed away from everyone, and everybody's happy and healthy and getting about doing their thing in a safe manner. So let's see. We got Jim Davis, Luke Miller, Tom Smith. We're waiting for a few others to show up, guys. So we're going to hang for a few minutes, if that's all right. Got anything to say, Mr. Dave Hanna?
I just want to let folks that are on now, if you have any questions, please utilize the question area. I'll be monitoring those. So if anybody has a question during the presentation, we'll be happy to make that note and then answer those. We'll have some time at the end to answer questions.
All right. We had a bunch of people registered, so give them another minute to jump in. There we go. Looks like Richard just joined. Hey, Rich. All right. Well, you know what? The guys will trickle in, I'm sure. So we'll get started on this thing. Again, Dave DeBear, National Flag Construction, Director of Architectural and Commercial Sales with the gang. And the other guy on the screen is Dave Hanna, our Director of Marketing. And Dave will be taking the questions for us as I keep chirping away. And there's a little button on your dashboard that says, it's a picture of a hand, I think. You can raise your hand, or the word question appears, just click on that. You can type in your thing via the chat function on this thing, and Dave will do his best to answer those as we go. Plus, there's going to be a little question and answer session at the tail end of this as well. So I'm going to get rid of my ugly mug. You don't have to look at me. And Dave, you can turn your camera off if you want. There we go. So this program, but I didn't bid it that way, hosted by the Tool Locker, American Import Tile's online tool store and allied products collection of goodies. This story here is something that came of an actual situation that happened to me several years ago, where a large project was bid and was awarded, and all of a sudden the contractor gives me a call and through a distributor somewhere and begged for what I thought were unreasonable discounts. He forgot or didn't do something or missed something in his bid. We'll talk about that as we go through this. And in my 23 years over at Custom Building Products, dealing with architects, GCs, excuse me, and flooring contractors, I mean, yeah, we all make mistakes. Things happen from time to time. But with all that experience that we all have out there, I don't think it's right that just because something was missed in a bid or miscalculated in a bid, that somebody else has to finance the mistake. So that's kind of where that concept of this whole program came from. I serve on the ANSI committees along with the president of NAC, Brian Pettit. He's also the president of MMSA, which is the Material Manufacturers Association, Standards Association. And we work with ISO Technical Advisory Group, the Tile Council Handbook, and all the things that we're going to talk about today that govern our industry and help make standards a part of our business. It's critical that we all understand how a spec is written, why a spec's written, where to find things, what do you do when something's missing. So with all that in mind, let's get going on this little story here. If I can get my screen to move, there we go. So how does it all start? Okay, every day we're charged with the responsibility of going through bid packages and looking at stuff, and oftentimes in this category, setting materials or installation product, it just, you know, kind of gets overlooked from time to time. So you pump out a routine bid. Yeah, it could be 10,000 foot job, could be 1,000 foot job, could be 100,000 feet, whatever. You turn in all your stuff, lucky you're awarded the bid, and you find out that you got it for all the wrong reasons. And that's usually when all the fun starts. Okay. So for this project, for this conversation, we're going to talk about commercial projects, a little bit of new construction, a little bit of renovation, for the sake of this story. And as you go through your daily routine and you're looking at stuff, it's pretty commonplace to have predetermined numbers for bidding installation products and what have you. Maybe so not so much the labor that could bounce around, certainly based on the job conditions and what else going on. And there's certain other mobilization costs and what have you that move around. But setting materials, installation product, thin set mortars, grouts, underlayments, waterproofing, that's kind of a stock number. It doesn't really move around that much. So for that reason, oftentimes we'll look at a project and just plug in a number. It's history. History is usually pretty good. It has a way of repeating itself. And you know, for standard building, it looks pretty good. So that's the beginning of the problem. Oftentimes specs, there's some gems hidden in there, and architects, they do their very best to put things where they belong, and master spec helps us to get them in the right places. But sometimes an architect will bury something in the wrong spot and it gets missed. And that's where the problems really come into play here. You know, like I said, other than pricing, numbers will include labor, mobilization, insurances, logistics, all the other things. Installation material cost is calculated in there based on the products that you normally buy, that you have established pricing for and whatnot. But where we focus most of our time is on that finish schedule. We want to see what tiles are specified. We go shopping to get the best deal, do all our takeoffs, get the square footage, make sure that if there's multiple products, tile products, there could be some glass in there, there could be different sizes, different colors, accents, all kinds of parts and pieces if it's a fancy job. And we want to get the right footage. We spend most of our time doing that. Sometimes we don't pay attention to the detail in that project manual. We look quickly at the drawings. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. We paid a lot of attention to the drawings to get our takeoffs and our square footage, but we don't pay attention to the detail in the project manual, okay, or the specs that come with it. And sometimes the finish schedules, there's notes buried in the sides that only appear in the notes, but they're relevant where they really should be in the specs, or something is in the spec and it refers to a note on the drawing, and that might not be there. So that can become a problem when information is placed in the wrong spot. I'm not saying the architects are bad at what they do, but it happens from time to time, and that will cause us to miss something, and it'll come back to bite us. So when you don't dive into this bid package and take a quick look at everything, you might miss a couple things. Like there could be a note in a certain area for epoxy grout. There could be a note for waterproofing in a shower area or something like that that's going to go all the way up above the shower head height. That may not show on the drawing, but it might be in a note. And in the spec, it just calls for the product. And then there could be a TCNA method in part 3 that says, yeah, waterproofing in the shower area, but the details in the Tile Council Handbook typically don't show waterproofing going to the shower head. That's something that the architect will specify. And I've seen that one missed a lot. Another one is anti-fracture membranes. It's in red. That's the basis of this conversation today. You might have missed that. It may not show up somewhere, but it'll be buried somewhere else. So you get the job, you're low bid, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, 10,000 square feet of membrane is missing. And you come out and you say, but I didn't bid it that way. And when that sentence comes out of a contractor's mouth, okay, it's not a pretty sight. Now we have to figure out as a team, architect, GC, subcontractors, and suppliers, we have to find a way to get it right. I would certainly hope that if it's an honest mistake, you can go back and get a change order to put it back in. The architect of the GC should be expecting it, and if you don't have it, that's a common mistake. Hopefully you could work through it. You don't have a GC that says too bad. But this particular story, they said too bad. So you got to go beat up your supplier for better pricing, maybe some value engineering to save money somewhere else to compensate for it. You might go shopping for a different ceramic tile or porcelain tile or glass tile that you can submit to the architect and accept at a lower cost. These conversations happen all the time. And sometimes it's because we missed something and quote, I didn't bid it that way. Or you bid it with a cheaper tile expecting to get it accepted by the architect. And all of a sudden, boom, they're saying, no, I want X, I don't want Y. So again, very critical to read everything, bid it the way it's intended, and try not to miss anything. So with all that in mind, here's some food for thought that happens outside of the tile contractor's estimating department. Material manufacturers, our company, NAC, Latticrete, Mapei, Custom, Textile, all these guys out there, the heating systems. I mean, all these people that have components and materials that go into a project, regardless of the brand, we all sit on these committees together too. They hit the streets, with their architectural teams and their sales reps, bringing the message of higher quality and very specific performance characteristics. And what I mean by that is, we have a lot of porcelain out there now, difficult to bond to, through body porcelain. There's stuff with backing on it, especially the gauged panels, the thin tile stuff. There's glass materials, all kinds of different things in our world, more today than ever. They require very specific performance characteristics for the installation. Different as we move through here, On the underlayment side for anti-fracture membranes, whether it be liquid applied or sheet membranes, there's a reason for those things going in there. So, if the manufacturer's reps, it starts there. They're carrying the message of their technology. As a part of the process, think about this for a minute. Some of us have been in the business for a while. New technology, new standards, new design ideas, all these things come out. There's all kinds of new stuff. Uncoupling membranes didn't exist in our world per se, 15, 20 years ago. They were just coming in. Anti-fracture membranes in the last 30 years or so. All kinds of different things. So we bring all this technology to the architects, to the designers, to the spec writers. Master spec takes a look at it. They build it into the package, and it's ever evolving. Okay. Everything's related to advancing our industry. And that second bullet there says systems integration of technology across all divisions of construction. It's not just as simple as it was, when the previous generation of tile mechanics were out there and pretty much everything was on a mud bed and it was sand and cement and there was two colors of grout. What do you want? Gray, black, or maybe white, 3 colors. It's different now. So everybody has to keep up with this stuff because there's little caveats to everything. So what does it mean? Okay. In the end, liability is the key word here. If we do the wrong thing, somebody has to stand and hold that liable basket. Architects will go out and research based on technical data. They'll research based on standards, ASTM, ANSI, and the like. And they'll put together a spec that on paper, and according to all the test data, it's going to work together. The systems will integrate successfully. Okay. They look at science, they look at the manufacturer's written data, assuming that all manufacturers, their products will meet the standards. But one thing that we need to understand in our industry is the UCC laws that apply to a project. And UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, oftentimes is something that gets overlooked when we start doing the value engineering piece, or not that anybody on this call would ever do it, because we don't, because we're here learning, but we've seen other people out there cut corners. And when you use a different product, an unapproved substitution, for example, and there's a failure, you violated a UCC law. It's called fit for purpose or fitness of merchantability when it comes to the manufacturer. You can have a product like even an anti-fracture membrane that's not designed to be in a commercial setting. If, like I said, for the sake of this discussion today, we'll look at, shopping mall or an airport or, excuse me, a large, public space that takes a tremendous amount of traffic. That's not like your mom's kitchen. So if we use a lesser cost, lesser quality project in a commercial job, and it fails because the wrong product was used, that becomes a violation of UCC law, fitness of merchantability for the manufacturer, and not fit for purpose by the contractor. We all, as a team, have the responsibilities to make sure we comply with that law. Now, what architects do, first of all, there's mandatory licensing, much the same as a physician or a lawyer. They'll have a license to practice in the United States. So they have to keep up with continuing education. And the amount of hours, the number of hours varies from state to state. But for the American Institute of Architects, I believe it's still 18 hours a year. These guys get to do the lunch and learns, and everybody brings their stuff in, and it keeps everybody current. Oftentimes, architects that do a lot of ceramic tile and stonework, like the mall guys and the airport guys and stuff, they're heavy on flooring because that's such a big piece of the budget when it comes to renovations. The key here, though, they want to keep learning. They want to stay current because they don't want to assume liability for less than an adequate floor installation, whether it be the tile itself, the tile product. We know that there's some tile out there you shouldn't put in a mall, or the installation system. Okay, and as such, they're looking for the best quality for their client, the owner, and the best process and the best systems for the GC and for everybody So it all integrates together comfortably and everything works nicely. There's no big problems along the way. So, with all of the education that they have to do and all this research, where do you think they go? Okay, simple answer. The same books and same documents that are available to us on the supply side and the contractor side. Okay, the flooring contractor. ANSI standards, specific to tile and stone installation, the A108, which is methods, A118, which are material standards. The manufacturers have to create products that meet those, as well as recent upgrades to the tile standards 137.1 and 2. 137.1 is tile, porcelain, ceramic tile. 137.2 is glass tile, and 137.3 now available is for the gauged porcelain panels, the real thin tile, 4 by 10 foot monsters. That has its own standard. It's very, very specific. Other staples in the industry that are out there, Tile Council of North America. We all have heard of Tile Council stuff, all the drawings. ASTM International, which are test protocol, and manufacturers reps. These guys carry this information about their products, and the reps typically are very well versed on how it all fits together. They should be. Okay, and here's a couple of pictures of some of the books. There's the 4 ANSI standards. On the one on the far right, the green is a first in any materials industry. That's the green squared 138.1. That is a sustainable standard specific to ceramic tile. It was written by a team headed up by Bill Gracie down at the Tile Council. Did an outstanding job, and that's getting some traction out there now. It has to do with material standards that are create sustainability surrounding all the lead stuff and whatever else is attached. It's a great document. Architects are starting to catch on to that. So keep an eye out for that too. Something like that, there may be a standard you have to meet for sustainability in tile. And if you don't know what that is, you might end up getting the wrong thing. Not a tile that doesn't meet that standard. So again, you don't want to come back and say, oh, wait, I missed that. You have to be aware of these things. These books are available. It's an ongoing effort too. Volunteer committees, the National Tile Contractors Association, NTCA, Bart Bedica's group, which is the non-union labor group, huge influence in these standards groups. They have their own technical committee made up of contractors and consultants and manufacturers. It's a tremendous group. They work really, really hard. TCAA, the Union Tile Contractors Association, those guys, similar deal. They have large-scale union contractors representing their piece of the pie. The CTDA, Ceramic Tile Distributors Association, all these big groups come together and work together to create these ANSI standards. Currently in development is self-leveling, uncoupling membranes. The thin tile and related installation methods are done now, thanks to Noah from Crossville. He did a tremendous job heading up that committee. And here are some of the examples of more recent standards that some of you may or may not have seen. Now, 118.7, that's been around for a little while now, high performance cement grout. And that standards was created because we had issues with grout shading and modeling in porcelain tile with normal cement grout. The industry answered the question and created a standard for it. The second one, improved modified mortar, same thing. Bonding to porcelain or glass, need a high performance mortar. Anti-fracture membranes, excuse me, were done 2005 and constantly being upgraded. Sound reduction membranes, 118.13. The upgraded standards for glass tile. The green squared thing I was talking about. And the last one in the list there, the gauged porcelain materials. Material standard is 137.3, and then 108.19, which is the labor side of the standards. Not only do you have a standard for the product, you also have a standard for the installation of that product. Again, a lot of work went into that from a lot of different areas, and they created a really good standard. That one I would encourage you to get and look at and read, because not only will you find architects not using it? You can volunteer that to the architect to say, wait a minute, if you want these large panels, these gauged porcelain panels, here's the standard for it. And do that as an RFI, or maybe some work way up front in due diligence to help eliminate problems where people might not bid it properly. The anti-fracture standard, specifically, 118.12 was originally written in 2005, 15 years ago. And again, a great group of people worked on that for a long time. It's currently going through some upgrades as technology has changed, and some language has changed a little bit, because over 15 years, you learn some more. Plus the Tile Council Handbook, since the time that that ANSI standard was adopted, Tile Council Handbook came up with details, F125, 125A, partial and full coverage. I think we've all seen those. And you'll find anti-fracture membrane in over 25 different details now. So these are all the things that we have to keep up with, so you don't get stuck saying, well, I didn't bid it that way. I bid it the old-fashioned way. Another thing that's critical, this is a shopping mall project that's a headache. I don't think anybody wants to see this mess, but due diligence is critical. And oftentimes a consultant will go out on a large project for renovation and do a lot of research and a lot of work, maybe drill some cores, maybe they'll have the plan for relocating kiosks or trenching going on or whatever, like you see here. If that report is available, you should ask for it, because there may be some information in there that's critical to the way you bid the work. And you don't want to go up and say, well, wait a minute, I didn't have that information. I didn't bid it that way. Then you get into that famous discussion yet again. Here's another one. That's full coverage membrane. Looks pretty good. That's why the little kid in the picture is smiling. And here's a detail, the F125 full coverage detail that was created. And the footnote there that says 1 or 2 soft joints may be required, because you have to have a little bit of relief in that cement grout so that the movement takes place. If you don't have that in it, the grout joints may crack or just crumble and be fatigued after a while. So, you know, check the manufacturer again. Their technology for their joint sealant, their mortars, their membranes, check with those guys to make sure you're doing it right. We're bidding it right. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. So here's some other common problems that I've seen over the last 25 years. When you get a bid package, we all kind of jump to Division 9, Section 93, 10 or 15 or 45, whatever you're working in. And the very first paragraph or two in your section you're looking at are references. And typically you will see references to other sections, including oftentimes Division 3 for concrete, cast in place concrete. Sometimes you'll get Division 4 for framing if you're doing wall work and what have you. Division 7 for joint sealants, maybe waterproofing in there, whatever. I had somebody say to me one time when there was a pretty big situation that needed to be dealt with, it was a problem with the concrete slab. And it was an lightweight, air-entrained synthetic aggregate, all the things that we don't like to see. And the answer from the contractor was, that doesn't pertain to me. I probably threw that in the trash. That was the answer. That was a very good answer. I would recommend, if they're missing from your bid package, see if you can get a hold of them. There's something in there that you need to know. Otherwise, it would not be referenced in your section. There could be other due diligence reports, things of valuable tidbits of information. I know it's easy for me to sit here, talk to you guys and say, it'll only take you 5 minutes. Nobody has an extra 5 minutes usually. We don't even have 1 minute. We're all doing this in the 11th hour. But I'm telling you that just to get familiar, know where to look and what you're looking for, it becomes habit. And you'd be surprised how many things that are hidden and buried or not even there that you should have. So all I'm saying in this one, if there's references and you don't have them, you might want to try to get your hands on them and just take a glance, because there's something in there. Another problem that we have that causes us to say, but I didn't bid it that way, is the RFI process. If we do see something that is incorrect, and yeah, architects make mistakes, bid packages are full of mistakes. Don't assume what they're thinking, because we all know what happens when you assume incorrectly, okay? Yeah, an RFI is a pain in the neck, but you send it through the pipeline and everybody gets the answer and you have a level playing field. You have the ability to control some of the process rather than sitting there assuming one thing or another, which could lead to a problem. So back to Division 3, okay, there's many things in that concrete section. And if you don't have, by the way, a copy of the ACI 117 standards, and you do a lot of commercial work, that might be something good to have, because ACI 117 is the standard that's used in Division 3 and oftentimes has a lot of different things in it that are referenced, such as lightweight concrete mixes I was talking about earlier. Excuse me, air entrained concrete mixes, anything over 6% becomes a problem. Flatness tolerances, we all talk about self-leveling, and need a nice flat surface for these large format tiles to be beautiful. And then, of course, curing compounds. I love it when you get the call that says the curing compound dissipates when it's exposed to UV and moderate to heavy foot traffic. Okay, there's a roof on the building. There's really no UV lights in there, and nobody's walking in the corners and edges of the building. So it's not dissipated. It has to be removed. I mean, how many times have we all been through that mess? Again, if there's a dissipating compound used, you have to ask the question, do you want me to blast this? Because that's got to come off anyway. And some of the other conditions, they may create the need for additional materials, whether it be additional sealer on the concrete, an anti-fracture membrane, whether it be liquid applied membrane as a sealer, like Gypcrete, for example, if you're going to put tile on it. Obviously with materials comes labor, and you could have an unacceptable concrete surface. Yeah, then there's this stuff, okay? Division 2, Division 3, this is where we find these problems. The picture of the slab on the left, can't really see the dimension on that ruler, but that's a defective slab. That thing has opened up. It actually had lifted about a 1/16 of an inch there. And the GC was saying, just tile over it, put a membrane over it and tile it. I got news for you. If you're going to do that, don't use NAC membranes on the one on the left, because that's a defective slab. The one on the right, you can see there's the base of a column there, that little box, the stripe on it. There's no saw cut there, and you can see that the thing cracked where it wanted to, and the light color on either side of that crack is where they pushed it out to get it flat again. That's a defective slab. And we all know it's easy for me to sit here and say, you got to call the GC and you tell them I'm not tiling that till you fix it or replace it. And they're going to say, no, just tile over it. And you get into that discussion. But if you have the ANSI standards in your pocket and you can reference some of the 108 standards for surface prep, you got a leg to stand on. And you can have a good conversation with folks about that. There's nothing that's going to help those two, by the way. The other thing is basis of design, which is pretty popular these days. It'll reference a specific branded item, could be a brand of thin set, underlayment, whatever, but there's other manufacturers listed as approved equals or places to go and shop. The basis of design is the standard of the work. Okay, it's brand X, this product. You research that product and see what standards it meets, and then performance specs. You can make that adjustment, whether it be ANSI or ASTM or whatever. There you go. The only thing I would caution everybody on, just because I've seen it go sideways, not in our business, but in other divisions of work, down the bottom there, it's in quotes or equal. Be very careful if a spec is written brand X or equal and then you submit something and it's approved by the architect, if that product that was specified or is the basis of design has a patent assigned to it or associated with it, then theoretically there's no equal, because that would be a patent infringement. And there was a pretty nasty lawsuit years ago because of that. It was in the window companies somewhere. But be very weary of or equals. I'm not really sure how to get around it these days because there's too many laws and too many lawyers. But if you see that, be really, really careful. I would question it before you go doing that, because the original product spec, those guys can turn around and really bust your chops if something has a patent on it. Just be really, really careful. Not researching basic design carefully could, again, eliminate something from your process, okay? Sometimes, especially if we're doing large format tile, let's say in a high-rise condominium or a 3 or 4 story commercial office building, you might want to look at the structural drawings, okay? Because it could be post-tension concrete. And typically we don't know that. It just says concrete slab. We're looking at the concrete formula and we're looking at the tile standards or the tile section. If you have a post-tension slab, you need a full coverage membrane, because that slab will flex and move and create what's called concrete creep. And it will actually delaminate the tile right off of the slab. Certain load designs come into play. Large format's a problem. And this is where the RFI comes into play. Like I said, if you don't think the appropriate tile installation system is in place on post-tension or pre-stressed concrete, something like that, give us a call. Call your thinset guys. Call us at NAC. We'll help you through that. Pay close attention to the details that the Tile Council has out there, because they address this very carefully. And it's unfortunate that sometimes architects, they miss this, and it forces you to bid it a certain way, which is incorrect. I've seen too many massive failures. In fact, I don't know what the Google search is, but if you go on, or YouTube, there's a couple of videos out there where you can watch the video and the tile is actually popping off the floor. Somebody's taking a video of it, and it's post-tension with no membrane, and the whole thing's just flexing and coming apart. It's really something to watch. Yeah, I don't want to say any more about this. I mean, you tile over a movement joint. The one on the left, you can see the tiles are lighter in color. Yeah, that cracked before, it looks like it cracked again. The one on the right, believe it or not, it's the Venetian Hotel. I think it's the Venetian. That's in the main lobby, the walkway between the check-in desk and the casino. And they didn't want an expansion joint right there. Well, they got one. They also have a lot of attic stock, and they replace that, I don't know, every year, every 6 months, I don't know. But that's ridiculous. There should be a joint there. Somebody, before I get to this, well, you know, Dave Hanna just sent me a text. Somebody's got a question. We'll get to your question about the post-tension slab in just a second. So here's my idea regarding all of this for what we can do as an industry from our side of the equation. And that's, you know, in bold right there, become a better student. Get involved in your own continuing education. These industry manuals and books that I showed you earlier, manufacturers, you know, the thinset guys are famous for handing these things out. ANSI standards, Tile Council handbooks. You can get them from the Tile Council of North America. They handle the production of those things and distribution. But take a look through them, read them as they pertain to what you're bidding on. You know, attend seminars like this. I mean, this is great. I'm glad everybody's here. You know, a lot of distributors do a lot of cool stuff. They have industry experts come in and talk, do hands-on things. You know, they show you the products, the technology, conventions, whether it be surfaces, coverings, TCNA, you know, the big Total Solutions Plus, all these things, there's education there. This industry is rich with knowledge, and we compare what the tile industry does. You know, you look at that versus vinyl or even windows and stuff. We're light years ahead of other people. A plumbing code was changed for primary shower pan liners the last several years. They accept through IAPMO, they accept liquid applied membranes. Okay, RedGuard and MapGuard, all those things. That is a primary pan line. The plumbing code accepted it because of the technology behind it and our standards that we wrote in the industry. That's the kind of knowledge and help that we have here. And also, product reps. Call your product reps. Rely on those guys. They have good information. And typically, if they don't have an answer for you immediately, they have the resources that'll help you get the answers and help you through these things. Here's a little advertisements as an example. Our ECB membrane, okay, it's been around for 37 or 38 years, and it'll do a lot of things. Crack isolation up to 3/8 of an inch. It meets the ANSI 11810 and 11812 waterproofing and anti-fracture standards. Works with radiant heat systems, another one where we're trying to develop standards, and moisture vapor transmission, up to 10 pounds per 1,000 feet, which is the calcium chloride test, when used with our NACTAC blue primer or the NS97 primer, and 7 pounds per 1,000 with our acrylic primer, our other interior primer. So if you have a situation, again, you have to provide moisture vapor transmission, or moisture vapor transmission exists, you have to remediate that. There's a couple of different products on the market. If it's up to 10 or 12 pounds per 1,000 feet, you can use this. If it's above that, you got to use an epoxy mitigation system. Again, the adhesives are changing, the floor covering materials are changing. Moisture vapor has become a very hot issue for a lot of different reasons. So again, ask the reps. Okay, so the bottom line to this conversation is, we're all in the same team here. We're not fighting each other. We want to help each other. Okay, we want to raise the integrity of our industry, raise the profit margins for everybody, and maintain good quality work. That's why we're here. We want to grow this industry. Excuse me again. So with that, Tom over at the Tool Locker, just take a look at that hit thetoolllocker.com. This is his advertisement. Our ECB kit on the left, it's 2 foot wide by I think 25 feet long is that roll of membrane. Get a little primer, brush, and knife in there. He's got that on sale. The picture on the right is a 12-inch wide by 50-foot roll. Okay, with the primer and a brush and a little razor knife in there. Those kits are something that probably everybody should have if you're doing any kind of repair work. They're very handy to have. Throw it in your truck and away you go. So those are on sale. Check with Tom at thetoolllocker.com. Okay, so with that, again, I appreciate everybody. Let me turn my. Okay, you guys ready for this? Oh, my camera's on. Oh, yeah, I'm back. I don't know if Dave Hanna wants to come back on, but we had a couple of questions. One of them, thank you, Dave. I think one of the questions, where is it? I can't find it here. I don't know. Somebody asked something.
How do we know if the slab is post-tension?
How do we know? You'd have to look at the concrete specs, Division 3. Typically, if you go there and it's a large slab and there's no saw cuts, or over around the perimeter somewhere, there will be a stamp in there that says post-tension do not cut. Another way to find out is during construction. Sometimes we get a look at the building as it's going up. You'll see the first story, not the ground level, but the first story. You will see that they're pouring slabs, but there's no walls. There's a temporary deck put in there. And on the edges of the slab, you'll see these little round spots look like plugs, okay, where they've cut the tendons off and plugged them. Up above, if they're just pouring, you'll see steel bars sticking out the end of the slab. There's all that. The easy way is to ask the general contractor, what is the concrete construction? You know, is it post-tension? Is it pre-stressed? But typically when you go there in the ceiling below, there's no steel decking and it's just exposed concrete. Typically that's a good indication that that is post-tension. Hopefully that answers that. But ask the GC, he knows. So anyway, let's see here. Trying to figure out this little dashboard I'm looking at. Somebody had a comment or a question. Every truck needs an ECB kit. Well, I agree. Whoever said that, I agree.
That's Tom.
Okay, Tom Smith. Well, there you go. I think Tom may need two. You guys got to pony up here. So anyway, that's, you know, the story is interesting. You know, just to review it again, it's frustrating sometimes when we hear something, you know, where a contractor's asking for a little bit of a discount. Can you give me some help on this? We ask why, and they say, yeah, I didn't bid it that way. And it's very frustrating for everybody, especially the, you know, you, the contractor, who, okay, I goofed up, I missed something. Can you help me out? Yeah, chances are you're going to get a little help, but at the same time, we have to learn from this and move forward all the time. Constantly be in motion going forward. So, what was that? Is that the post-tension question there? Is a suspended slab typically post-tension? The word typical is, that doesn't really apply here. A suspended slab could be something that's still on a steel deck, suspended on the perimeter by the steel framing and stuff. I think the way the terminology is moving, just, you know, the way it's described, a suspended slab sometimes is referred to as post-tension. Again, the best way to look at it is if there's no decking and it's just like a slab of concrete, bare on the bottom, bare on the top, chances are really good that's post-tension. But ask your GC if you can, if you have that ability. So, now look, what else? Any other questions? It's hard to tell. We have recorded this, and this, I'm going to send a link to Tom and Luke, so you can use this thing again over and over if you'd like, for your reference. And other than that, I think if there's no more questions, we're good to go. So again, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Luke, at some point, our paths will cross when the travel allows. Thank you for your participation, and I think you were live streaming this. If there's anything that we can do at NAC to help you get through the bid process, you got questions, anything, just feel free to call us. We're here to help. I know that Tom over there at American Import is also there to help. He's got a great staff. Jim Davis is on the line. He's our rep. He's also a very well-versed tile rep in the industry. He can help you with lots of questions like on porcelain tile and other products like that. So for this little gang we got here, it's a good solid group. Lots of information for you. So again, thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Don't get caught in the boomerang effect with this COVID-19 thing. It's getting pretty crazy out there. Everybody stay low, stay safe. Enjoy your weekend too.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone.